Hello everybody and welcome back. In the last video we built the API project using Docker, and now we need to build up the project using Docker Compose. So one of the problems with using just Docker, I think you guys have already seen, that it makes it really cumbersome to build a network. What if you have multiple resources, like we have a client, some echo servers, and an API? These are all different resources that do things differently, and there isn't really a good way to connect them all up. So we need to have a good way to connect them all up. And Docker Compose gives us that ability. So when we had installed Docker CE earlier, we'd also installed Docker Compose. And now we're going to go ahead and use that for building our network. So the first thing we need to do is I want to actually create a folder for Docker Compose, because I think that will make things easier later on. So let's go ahead and create a new folder. We're going to say Compose. And inside Docker Compose, we're going to create our Docker-compose file, compose.yaml file. And this is the file that Docker looks for when you run Docker Compose up. It looks for the Docker compose.yaml file. Now you can actually name these files whatever you want and then pass in a -f flag to pick those files using Docker Compose. This way all you have to do is do Docker Compose up and it just runs. So let me show you what that looks like. So the first thing we need to do is set a version for Docker Compose. And we're going to be using version 3. And then we're going to set services up. So this is basically each Docker image that you're running. So remember before how we had built the image and then we did Docker run? Well, now what we're going to do is we're going to be using different services for each individual system. So the first part of our system is our client. So let's go ahead and build our client. And that client is going to need a build property with the context of // and then we need to have the Docker file. Because we're going to be using everything in dev, we're going to use Docker file -dev. So this basically says is go. Actually, we do back one, huh? Go back one to this client folder up here and look for this Docker dev file and use that to build the project. And then we need to set, we need to map some ports. So remember before we'd use that -p. Well, now we can just directly map what ports we're going to be using. So in this case, we're going to be using 8080. We're going to map 8080 to port 8080. So let's go ahead and just run this and see how it works. So let's go into our Compose project here. And we'll say Docker Compose up. Compose is unsupported. Did I install the wrong version of Docker Compose? I might have done that. Version 1.8. What is the current version of Docker Compose? Docker Compose. And install Compose. Linux. 1.23. Oh, we need to grab the new version. Okay, let's go ahead and do that real quick. That's why this isn't working. So let's go ahead and grab this new version here. And I'm going to put that in the README for you guys. Upgrade Docker Compose. First step is to run this curl command here. And then we need to apply permissions to it. So 2, there we go. Now we're going to run that, and now it should work. Why did that not? Docker Compose, oh, source, CSHRC. There we go. Okay, so the reason why is we copied it into our local up here. But it was our current bash didn't know about it, so I had to update our bash using our source here, and then now it knows about 1.23. Now this should actually work. Docker Compose up, and now it's going to build the network. No error this time. So building client. So you'll see it's doing all that same stuff that we had done before, but you don't have to actually run that individual command to build and run. It's just one command. And we're actually going to, you know what, I'm going to pause because this will take a little bit. I'll see you guys in a second. Okay, so you see now that it actually finished running. If you look up, it ran all through all these 6 steps And then when it finished building, it automatically ran and tagged and ran for us, which is pretty dang cool. You'll see creating the client here, and you'll see that it's actually running. So if you hold down Control and click here, it'll bring up our application in our browser. So that's a lot easier, I think, than having to build and then run and then set the command. Now let's say, for example, you don't want to see this. You want to just have it running in the background. Well, you can go ahead and close that down. We're going to run this again, but we're going to run it detached, so -D. And we need it before, so -D. And what that does is that says, hey, run it detached. So that way it's not part of your output right here. It just runs in the background. And then also, I mentioned before that you can set specific files. Well, if you do -F, now you can set the specific file that you want to use. So in this case, the Docker Compose YAML. So I'll show you what this looks like. So run Docker -D. Didn't I do that right? -D. There we go. Now it's running in the background. So if you want to see what it's doing, you say Docker PS. You'll see the Docker is actually running. We can grab this Compose client here, like so. And we can say Docker logs -F, and we can follow it as it's running, which is cool. So we have full Docker power over all of our Docker images, but we don't have to do all that weird management stuff that was happening before, which is kind of nice, I think. So anyway, how do we clean all this up? Let's say, I don't want to run this anymore. I don't like what's running. You can actually run this command called docker system prune, like so, and it will destroy everything that you've done so far in Docker and save you a lot of space, right? Even though we have these super small projects. So I'll actually go put that in the README as well. So let's see here. We'll do install Docker. We'll do running Docker. So we have the command docker system prune, which cleans everything up. And then we have Docker Compose up with a -D for running detached containers. There's some stuff in your README there. Okay, well I hope that was interesting to you guys, and now you can see that you can run Docker Compose. So in the next video, we're going to actually add more services and show how to connect those services up. I'll see you guys in the next video.